Thank you very much. What a beautiful morning. Thank you. So we will have our panel discussion, and I'm going to invite our esteemed panelists, starting with Dr. Samir Al-Ansari, CEO, RAC Digital Assets Oasis, board member, Merjan, Al-Rams Public Joint Stock Company, and Eureka. Dr. Kamran Shaikh, President, Adam Global Europe, and Managing Director of Morgan Reach Chartered Accountants, UK. Juliet Zhou, President, Adam Global Asia. We just had a wonderful session with Juliet, so no introduction required. Victoria Alonge, President, Adam Global Africa, partner of Simona Cooper's Partners, member of the Nigerian Bar Association, a fellow member of Chartered Institute of Taxation, Nigeria. And we'll have Dr. Tariq Nizami, founder and CEO of CEO Club Network Worldwide, and a founder of Connect Coin. Thank you very much for joining us. What a beautiful morning. So today our topic for our panel discussion is shaping the future of finance, navigating blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and digital banking, and its impact on global economic outlook. So I'm going to start with a few questions, and we will hear from our experts across the globe, their perspectives from Europe to Africa, China, Asia, and let's hear the valuable insights from them. So I would like to have my first question, and that is, what regulatory frameworks are driving digital assets in your regions, and what are the latest regional trends in terms of digital assets adoption? We'll start with Dr. Samir, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here. So before I answer that question, I wanted to give you one fact, which I am sure you will remember, because it is an extraordinary fact. On the 22nd of May 2010, it's a famous day now. Every 22nd May, they call it Pizza Day. Why is it called Pizza Day? Because a guy in Florida paid 10,000 bitcoins for 2 pizzas. 10,000 bitcoins for 2 pizzas. You know what's that worth today? 10,000 bitcoins?
10,000.
$700 million.
Goodness me.
$700 million. If he kept those bitcoins, they're worth $700 million today. That's got to be the most expensive truffle pizza in the world, right?
Ever.
So forget the 200 or 10,000 or now 70,000. Just remember that fact. 22nd of May. 10,000 bitcoins for 2 pieces. So hold on to your bitcoins. So regulatory environment. Kamran, of course, talked previously and mentioned Dubai Vara. And in the UAE, so if I focus on the UAE, we have a very interesting landscape for the digital and virtual assets. And there was maybe a little bit of confusion between virtual assets and digital assets. They're all kind of all in the same pot now. And the virtual asset side is what needs to be regulated. And that's why it's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. The UAE has been an early adopter, and the UAE saw this as a huge opportunity, and the UAE, as His Excellency mentioned, is always looking for opportunities for business, for growth, for being a part of what's driving future development and growth globally, whatever it is. Always open for business, always open for creating the right regulatory environment, a friendly business environment to attract people, talent, brains from all over the world. And we've done it for 50 years now, and touch wood, we're doing it very, 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 very well. So when I got the call from His Highness the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah 2.5 years ago saying, Samir, we want to create something in crypto. That was literally what His Highness said to me. And I said, okay, Your Highness, what do you have in mind? He said, I don't know. I just had a meeting with CZ, the founder of Binance, and we have to be involved in this space. And you were at the IFC for 12 years, you know what to do. I said, I'm honored, Your Highness, I'll make it happen. So we then did our study, and Dubai, of course, jumped on this immediately, as Dubai often does. And for those who know me, I spent 30 years of my career in Dubai, and the last 7 helping the government in Ras Al Khaimah. And of course, ADGM was already talking about doing things in the digital and virtual asset space. So the landscape from a regulatory environment was beginning to take shape, and Dubai Vara decided they would focus on virtual assets, crypto, and everything around it. So virtual asset service providers is basically the exchanges, the brokers, the custodians, and so on. And of course, you've got ADGM. So we said, you know what? Instead of being another regulator for those regulated activities in technology and what's driving the future, let's focus on the unregulated activities. Now, why do I tell you all this story? Because when you look at regulations, regulations can be for regulated activities, they can also be for unregulated activities. Why? Because you want to encourage the brains and the talents and so on that I'm talking about to come and set up in the UAE. A lot of them were running away from the rest of the world because there were no regulations. They were concerned about, I might be safe today, but tomorrow they might shut me down, and maybe they'll even put me in jail. And that's happened in other parts of the world. So they started coming to the UAE. And what we said is, we don't want regulations to stifle innovation. We don't want over-regulations to stop these companies from coming to the UAE. And a license from a regulated authority for VASPs can take a year to a year and a half. Because think of it, it's the same as saying regulated financial services. It takes time for the regulator to give you a license and a lot of hurdles to get through. But the technology side, blockchain is technology. It's not a cryptocurrency. People confuse things. Blockchain and what gets built on it, Web3, AI, metaverse, etc., etc., etc. These are not regulated activities. This is technology. This is internet 25 years ago, if you want to think of it that way. So we decided to create a free zone focused and dedicated to digital assets, and it's blockchain, Web3, etc., etc., etc. An ecosystem, not just, most free zones, we have almost 50 free zones in the UAE, but a free zone's job is to give you a license and say, see you next year when you come for renewal. We said, we don't want to also do that. We want to create an ecosystem. So if you come to us and we give you a license, you're a gaming developer, an app developer, a layer one blockchain, a crypto, technology bridges, etc., not as in exchanges, but all the technology that comes behind all of that. We give you the license, you should have it in a day, up to a week maximum, a fraction of the cost of the regulated activity, plus we have an ecosystem for you. You plug into the ecosystem. You want accounting firms? We have them ready. You want legal firms? We have them ready. You want a layer one blockchain on which you build whatever technology you want to build? We have those ready. You want to open a bank account? Almost guaranteed we get you a bank account. You want a cybersecurity firm to audit the technology that you're building on? We provide you that. You want to be part of the accelerator, incubator, VC? We're building that. So that's why we have all these companies coming to us from all over the world. And that's what the UAE wants. And that was the vision of His Highness. I want to attract talent to the UAE, to Ras Al Khaimah. We would diversify our economy, and we need to be in this space. And the only way to attract them is to make it attractive, to make it easy to do business, and to make it easy for them to grow that business and be successful. I can talk for 3 hours, as you can imagine. So let me stop here and hand over. But at the end of the day, regulations, yes, they're about protecting consumers, but they're also about creating an environment in which talent and innovation can grow and be nurtured and be successful.
Thank you very much. Juliet, what's your perspective?
In China, I think the situation is a little bit different. I mean, blockchain technology obviously is very widely used through the nation. No matter from the government administration, okay, we all use the big data. So that's why we are thinking the government is now becoming very, very powerful because they can, using the blockchain technology and to have a wider, broader information data, and then they can actually break all these information barriers in the past, even between the government authorities, between different industries, between different administration channels. Let's say we have information can be concurrently shared between custom, banking, tax authority, market supervision. So all these data will be shared by second within all the government authorities, which actually putting the enterprises, people, when you're doing the filing of the information, you have to be really careful on the consistency and accurate, because otherwise, they will come back to you for queries. But then from the people's daily life, I think the blockchain technology actually is already very deeply embedded into the daily life. Your living behavior, your shopping behavior, so that is already very deeply embedded. But crypto, that's another story, because if people familiar with China should know that cryptocurrency is not tradable by people in the country, because it is prohibited by the government. So if you're talking to some Chinese people and they're saying that they are doing cryptocurrency exchange or investment, it must not be in China, because it will be classified as illegal. So they must be doing something like in Singapore or in UAE. So yeah, in Hong Kong, yeah, but it's not as broadly, popular as UAE and Singapore. I think currently Singapore and UAE are the most popular places and the hottest places. Very mature the market is in the whole Asia. So in China, the cryptocurrency is, we have different what we so-called digital currency, but which is actually introduced, governed, and dominated by the government. So this is another type of story. It is a different concept and a definition to what a cryptocurrency is.
For sure, Juliet.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This was very informative. So, Victoria, if you could please let us know about the African perspective and the latest developments in your region, please.
Thank you. Crypto is of significant value in Africa, and I can say for Nigeria that Nigeria is one of the highest user of crypto, even though there's no proper government regulation in place. But in Africa generally, what drives the regulatory framework, is governed by a varied position by the different governments. And this is tailored around financial innovation, security, and consumer protection. That's basically what drives each region, each government, in terms of this technology that has taken over. And it's quite amazing that the population have embraced digital assets, but the government have not put in place regulatory framework that will assist the proper channel of this development, as opposed to what we have in the developing countries of the world. For instance, in South Africa has been very proactive in crypto regulation. It has introduced licensing requirements, and I have it on good authority that by the end of this year, almost 60 crypto platforms will be given license. So they are very high in that respect, and it shows a shift from restriction to regulation. And it also has an advisory and intermediary service apps, which aims to promote market stability, while also ensuring consumer protection in the process. In Nigeria, the approach has always been balancing caution with regulation. At the instance of this tech, the government of Nigeria, through the Securities and Exchange Commission, totally banned the use of crypto. It was not allowed, it was seen to be an illegal stuff. And as we speak, we are yet to have a regulation. But what the governments have done to date is to put regulations in place to allow people to operate those banks under strict conditions. At the initial stage, no person, no bank can allow you to operate such an account because it's really illegal. And the reason why government has been so cautious is because of fraud, the anti-money laundering issues we've been having, and the manipulation of the system. It's one of the basic things we've gone through, even with the Binance company, and that's gone viral, that they believe that it was because of the activity of that platform that the Naira value went tremendously down. And then we have scarcity of dollars, and the economy was just revolving around that problem. So the government had put in place, as we speak, we have a control by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We have the Central Bank of Nigeria also helping out to ensure that it's regulated. But that regulation is not absolute. We still have a long way to go because we don't have the adequate regulatory framework. And I want to look at Kenya. Kenya has, over the years, not done much on crypto regulation. Though for blockchain tech, Kenya has gained traction across sectors like finance and agriculture. But that's quite encouraging because it's obvious that with the evolving trend, Kenya will also be able to put in place the proper regulatory framework. And I need to say, because of time, that it's a major problem in the African continent. When we talk about regulatory framework, we don't really have it. The only place I can say that the framework is in existence and can be seen as a hub for the market is Mauritius. They've done so much on that, and that's why it seems to be the place to go now. But that notwithstanding, the future is very bright. The government is cautious, but it does not mean that the government does not want to embrace, because that is the way to go. We have all the indices in place, businesses in place, that we are using digital assets, that there's nothing you can do. In fact, the bulk of what we do in Nigeria now, without that, you can't do anything. Most supermarkets, you can't go in there to buy things with cash. You must have a card. And the same thing, even during the COVID era, we had a lot of problems, so people had to use POS. So why is BRIBE being used? The major problem is the regulation. And I can say here that government has put in place the machinery to ensure there's a proper regulatory framework so that we can do business across the border and not be left out in Africa.
Yes, that's the goal. That's the goal. That's what all the governments unanimously should be striving for. Because if we want to make the best out of it, this amazing technology, the future going forward, we need to come up with standards on international level where we need to harmonize it. We need to bring in acceptance on international level. So we can see, you see, that's the beauty of this panel. So some of the countries, the level of openness and acceptance seems like it's higher than other countries. But then what are the impacts or repercussions in terms of the benefits which it could come up with? You know, if let's say the speed of adoption, yeah, if that's higher, what would be the impact on the economy of that country? Like, what kind of difference would it make in terms of the acceptance and otherwise? Dr. Kamran?
Right, thank you so much for that. So I'll touch on very quickly in terms of what I said earlier, UK being in the game. I must confess it is easy to say that UAE is definitely innovating in the right direction with great zeal and with great speed, and the acceptance and the implementation and the rollout is very, very quick. So UK also has the FCA, which is regulating, as I said earlier. Now the speed of adoption, as you said, how is that going to bring value to us or to value to businesses? The quicker any government legislates, regulates, or even looks at the areas which it has to have unregulated activity, but it's managed in an efficient manner, that will bring in a lot of economic benefits very quickly. As the President for Africa mentioned earlier, Binance brought Naira down. This is the strength of crypto or digital currency that's out there. the regulation of it, the ensuring of the valuation, the correct security, the correct measures put in place, and the implementation at cross-border will bring a lot of value to any country, because again, you would have a lot less hindrance in terms of the cross-border transactions. The efficiency that's there, it's real time. The cost of doing business would be a lot less. And once the frameworks are aligned internationally, the representation, the presentation, the tax clearances, the tax transparency, and the reporting it will make sure that internationally the business grows and the value increases.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Dr. Nizami, would you like to shed some light on it?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank Adam Global and Professor Dr. Tariq Nizami for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. People know me as a CEO Club founder, but today I'm talking totally different subject because I own a cryptocurrency called Connect. We've been working for the last 5 years on this project, which would be launched on Binance in very soon, I think in next week or following week. We were just delayed due to the Binance internal issues. But first, before I make any comment, I want to make some comments on our, one of the panelists mentioned the industry is 1.2 trillion, I would say. And in next 10 years, be 5 trillion. I think the rate we are going, I think we'll reach 5 trillion in next 2 years, And if you look at the trend of technology, trend of how things are moving along, how we're using the current technology, I think it's hard to predict more than a couple of years, really, if you look at it. So it is very important to know why I'm mentioning that any investment in digital currency in any shape and form, Bitcoin or crypto, any type of cryptocurrency, tokens, NFTs, you cannot be a loser if you make the right decision. There are all types of in the market, but I think the current regulatory authorities, especially in UAE, I think creating very transparent and very good platform for all of us to invest. Second comment I want to make, panelist from Hong Kong mentioned that Chinese are banned in China. But let me share, the biggest investor in this industry is Chinese. Most of the exchanges are run by the Chinese, so they are the big stakeholders in this industry.
The Chinese not in China, right?
On international level.
Yes. So I think, if you look at it, this is the industry that has to be regularized. A lot of countries, like she said, in Africa and other countries, they are not ready. They better be ready for tomorrow. I think we all have to be regularized, and I think UAE is a perfect example for the world to look and see how they started it, how they are controlling it, monitoring it, and everything else. And I made some notes because this is very sensitive subject, regulations and all that. So I think, Dubai has been a launching pad for fintech, innovation, for the government-led design, create an environment, and you can see the financial technologies and different platform that UAE, this lovely country, had set for all of us. I think that's why globally people are coming into here to launch their coins, to see. And this is one of the only city that I know that hosts so many blockchain, crypto events and platforms and groups that nowhere in the world that you will find the experts in one city. And that's why one of the reasons that His Excellency, the Minister was mentioning that there are 200 nationalities live here. I think we all can learn from each other. And these nationalities, and I think, I'm a strong believer of Dubai, being here for more than 18 years, that any problem you give to this city or this country, because there are 200 brains working together. So I think we can find a great solution for it. And technology is the way, this is the future, has to be monitored, but has to be a good environment, has to be given to all of us. As an investor, as a platform, and I think that what is UAE is offering at this stage, and what I know in coming years or months, other experts would know that there's a lot more to come in this digital currency. And as you see it currently, we hardly see a physical currency anymore. We are using digital currency every day, every hour. So I think, we should always look into this industry very closely, very closely, I would say. Thank you.
Just going to add
Please,
a
please.
quick point. So the $1.2 trillion is just the valuations of cryptocurrencies on exchanges today. The wider space is at least 10 trillion. Why? Because if you include AI, just NVIDIA, the second largest company in the world, is $3.2 trillion. In fact, I haven't checked, it might be 3.5 trillion today. It's that big and it's that huge, and you just cannot ignore the wider tech space. Digital virtual assets, you can't, absolutely can't ignore it. So it's way more than people even imagine the numbers to be, and you have to be a part of that. You have to see the problem with the whole space, particularly on the blockchain and crypto side, is people are afraid of it. They don't understand it. They hear a lot of bad stories, and so they try and shy away. Please think back 50 years, 60, 70 years. Banks. How many people lost money, completely everything, with banks? They still lose money with banks. Just look at Lebanon and other countries. So these things, you're always going to have these issues, but everybody has brains, and they need to use them to do their homework before they put their money into anything. And regulators have to help with that, and regulations will adapt, will change, will get better, etc. The other thing I keep telling, because I'm the guy with the gray hair that got involved in this space, and I come from financial services, and I keep telling these kids, use cases, real use cases, actual applications, day to day, talk to people about that. Make them understand that they're actually using these things already, so don't be afraid of it. Those of you who live in the UAE, use something called UAE Pass, right? You pay your bills, you do all sorts of things. That's on blockchain. That's been on blockchain for 2 years. It's there, it's transparent, nobody can change it, it's traceable, etc., etc., etc. So these things are already happening. Don't be afraid of them. And if you don't know enough about it, read. I had to do a lot of reading to even understand what is blockchain and explain to all sorts of people and engage with conversations with people. So I was pushed to do it, and I'm so glad I did it. And now I know more than my 30-year-old son who's been doing it for 5 years. So, it's a very, very interesting, important space. Don't ignore it.
Thank you very much. So basically, on macro level, on country level, on government level, what we are saying is they need to find that fine balance between the openness and at the same time to be stringent and prudent, because there are risks involved at the same time. You've got security issues, you've got the ownership, verification, so they need to find that fine balance. We will continue this lovely conversation, but at the same time, we would like to know from our participants, if anybody of you have got any question pertinent to this topic, we would love to hear from you. Any questions? Ayman?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
How many people in this audience actually own a wallet? Not one of these. A wallet where you have it, right. So, 3 of that. Oh, excellent, you see? That's not yours, Doctor. That's Adam's for sure. So why I ask that is because, no, I'm going to stop there. We'll come back to that. For sure. I just wanted to know how many people actually have a wallet, have used it, understand the potential benefit of having a wallet down the road. Because a lot of the countries that we're talking about that are underbanked, where most of the population struggle to even have a bank account, if they had a wallet and have their phone and can transfer money like this, pay for things like this, etc., it is life-changing. So again, people worry about, what is a wallet and where does that sit? And if I lose the password, I've lost everything in that wallet. And it's just about, I guess, people understanding how the technology works, and it's pretty simple. But the applications are absolutely life-changing, and of course regulations have to protect the users, have to make sure whoever that wallet sits with is not an FTX of some sorts, it's somebody who is going to be there, your money is not going to disappear, etc., etc. But we're on that journey, and it takes a bit of time. I mean, 2 years ago, you talked about crypto in the UAE, people looked at you and said, what the hell are you talking about? And no, I'm not touching it. Look how far we've gone in 2 years. So imagine the speed of transformation over the next 5-10 years.
Thank you. So it comes down to peace of mind. from an investor's point of view or from a user's point of view, the prospective users, they would be like, is it safe? Can we use it? Can we go for it? So we would like to hear your perspective from your regions. What is it that we are doing for the prospective users, future users, that would give us that peace of mind that yes, it's good to go, that's the future, we should go forward and use it. Let's start with Dr. Kamran, please.
It's very, very simple. It's about education. It's about letting people know and taking all of these barriers they've got in their mind in terms of this crypto in the cloud and the blockchain. Where is it? How is it? And like rightly said by Dr. Samir, will I lose it if I don't have the password? It's all of these misconceptions that need to be laid, and that education has to come. Today, as a panelist here, that's exactly what we're looking to do. We're looking to educate people in terms of what this technology is, what it's bringing to the table, how it's evolving, and how it can benefit you as an individual, your businesses locally, and your businesses internationally. And it's going to be an uphill struggle for the current moment in time, but, and I say it's a big but, with the UK now looking to bring about a digital currency itself, they are putting a lot of information out there for people to educate themselves. You will have that generation where Adam has a wallet, which is absolutely brilliant, and the younger generation is going down that route. I have a young man who's a customer of ours, he's not 18 yet, and he's got NFTs. First time I saw him, I said, what the hell is an NFT? And he's like, oh, don't you know, Dr. Shaikh? I have no idea what you're talking about. I know about Bitcoin. What is an NFT? And again, I was pushed into the deep end. And we have a team that looks exactly at this to say what's out there, where are these things, how they're secure, and how we can assist customers that are in this space long term, and also assist our other customers who want to know more about it, educate them, and ensure that they can too benefit from it going forward in the right manner, with the right exchanges, with the right platforms.
Thank you very much. Dr. Samir, please.
I talked too much already.
We would love to hear from you, being the CEO of Rakdao. Like, I mean, if there is a prospective investor, what are we doing on your level to bring them that give them that peace of mind that yes, it's safe to invest?
So it's getting that balance right. It is a fine balance between regulation and innovation. And I think, again, we've got it right in the UAE, because if you need a regulated license, if you're conducting a regulated activity, you know where to go, Dubai VARA or ADGM. And they will do it by the book, and that's why it takes a year to 18 months to get a license, and it's expensive. If you're doing something that's not a regulated activity, it's more of a techie, let's say, activity. If you're building the technology for somebody who is conducting a regulated activity, you just need a normal license. You need to be in the ecosystem that will help you grow and succeed. Getting the balance right. And it is a fine art, and at the same time, it's never going to be perfect. And in every type of business, if you have a scammer whose intention is to scam people, they will do it in the fiat world, the normal world, the crypto world. And it's very difficult to stop people like that. But again, with more technology, even the tools that the accounting firms are beginning to use with AI is going to make it more and more and more difficult for the scammers to get away with it. And the beauty with blockchain and so on, that again, most people probably in this room don't know, is the traceability. It's all on the blockchain. You know, the idiots who try and take money via the blockchain from wallets and think they can get away with it, they actually can't, because it's all completely traceable. Now, some of them are smart enough to move it and somehow get it out and run away, right? So again, some of them are already ahead of the game. But in the fiat world, cash is out, it's gone. Now you got to trace it. So the technology is also changing in such a way that even on the risks, we are going to be managing those risks in a better way every single day going forward.
So the technology is not just the platform, but it's also helping us in terms of the controls. Juliet?
I think, for this, because we just talk about digital assets, and then we talk about all these risks associated with the digital assets. But for office, I'm very positive because I also doing USDD in Hong Kong, but with very small investment. I think that this is obviously a trend for the future, but this will rely on the acceptance. If we're talking about acceptance by normal people, this will comes from the trust. So if people believe this is safe, this is trustworthy, and this is something with good integrity and controllable, manageable, transferable, then people will accept. I mean, we don't talk about elderly generation. We're talking about young generation. It's just like our guest is saying, even now China is not allowed for this free trade of the cryptocurrencies in the country. But that doesn't mean Chinese people, Chinese young fellows, they don't do it. Actually, a lot of Chinese investors, they're actually doing it abroad in Singapore. I do have a few cases which is all 1990s or after 90s, post 90s generation. They're doing a lot in the cryptocurrency investment abroad. So, but this will comes from, if the attitude, the government will really support this. So it is coming from the regulation. Because Chinese is a very highly regulated, one-party dominant country. So anything that you need to have very comfortable environment for the free dealing, it is all coming from the government attitude. So the regulation obviously will bring what we talk about, the safety and comfortness. If you have any of the transaction fraud or any of the transaction difficulties or any of the disputes incurred or doubts coming up, at least we need to know who we can talk with and which government authority that we can to keep our rights. So this is also from this total country infrastructure to support this cryptocurrency to be dealt with. Then the other thing will depend on if the current currency, we'll be talking about the currency exchange, can be more freedom. Because I know that from UAE, from Europe, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, it is all free traded currency. There's not much monitoring on the currency exchange. But China is different because China still up to this moment have a strong foreign currency exchange control. But then if we're talking about a cryptocurrency, it is another story because it is free. It's like Mr. Samuel says that the transaction can happen in 1 second. But this is not, this is totally different. On the other hand, towards the current financial system implemented in the country. So this is another thing, which you see how these two products to shorten or narrow their gaps. And then by the end of the day, they probably can concurrently alive in the country.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Victoria?
Because we have peculiar issues in Africa, as I've stated earlier, regarding digital assets. Apart from embracing the establishment of comprehensive regulatory framework, it is important for government to put in place an implementation of consumer protection policies. Because even though the market is big in Nigeria and most African countries, governments have not done much. Governments of all these nations have not done much. So the populace is looking on governments to put a regulatory framework in place. And it is also important to improve security standards on digital asset platforms. They operate in my country, they operate in Ghana, but the problem is that who is regulating them? How are we ensuring that there's security standard to protect the interests of the public? Then also there's a need to address the risk of volatility and market manipulation. And that was the problem Binance had with Nigeria, market manipulation. So it's important for government to do that. There must be public awareness on investment risk. If there's public awareness, there's nothing to fear in investing in digital assets. And also, there's a need for data privacy protection compliance. We have the Data Protection Act in Nigeria, which has already brought in a kind of comfort for the populace There's a need also to promote financial literacy and digital education. Most people don't know, they just buy. In fact, when crypto started, it's very funny to say here, and my children were into it, and I said, crypto, what's crypto? And because the younger ones are the ones into this a lot, and they said, mommy, don't go into it, you will faint. Because the market can be high today, tomorrow it can go down. But what it means is that there's no literacy. There's no proper education on it. People are trading on it in Nigeria, in other African countries, but they don't really know much about it. And there's no protection from the government because there's no regulatory framework. So it's like, going into a dark place and you don't know whether you're going to come out of it. And also there's a need to encourage industry collaboration and regulatory sandboxes. I know that is being done in Nigeria. The Securities and Exchange Commission, if you want to go into that business, they'll give you a time frame of one year to test the waters, to see if you're able to do it, to be sure that the public that will buy into it will not be affected negatively. So once that is done, then they allow it to launch into the public. And there's also need for collaboration between public and private sectors to develop secure infrastructure for digital asset platform and payments. Then finally, enforcement of consumer rights and penalties for non-compliance. So if I lose money, where do I go?
That's the point. That's the point.
Yes, and there's need to put in place insurance policies for those operating on that platform to have a fund set aside so that if there are issues, I can have the relief that my fund is not gone forever. So many things need to be done. It's most unfortunate that Africa is lagging behind, but to be very candid, steps are already being taken. Because even though we don't have the laws in place, we are operating fully. In fact, the market is so high that you start wondering that this is a good one for the country, this is a good one for Africa. Why is the government not regulating it? Why is government not putting in place regulatory framework?
Correct.
So, but I know that the fact that we are doing cross-border transactions with other countries, we are actually taking steps. It's not all gloomy story. We are taking steps to ensure that we are in tandem with what is happening in other jurisdictions in the world.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. Mr. Tariq Nizami, so Dr. Kamran talked about educating, education, and for sure, but it comes down to, on government level, the regulations as well. So if in your country, for example, if those regulations are missing, then how hard it is to educate people, because you want to give them peace of mind, but at the same time, there are weaknesses or loopholes.
Okay, first I want to say this crypto industry, I think, just like any industry, there are opportunists who disturb the real players, so you have to really be very careful when you, as an investor, if you are, that where you're investing. This investment is just like any other stock, and everything is a long-term investment, no shortcuts or short terms, So just a comment on investors, anything long-term, it definitely will give a high return and everything. And I think to protect the investor interest, there has to be strengthened more strong enforcement by the local government and local regulatory authority. There should be consumer protection, establishing a framework for reforms and different things. And I think regulators are strengthening their focus on crypto asset providing, make sure that they meet their obligations to consumers. And I think we all, as any investment we do, and different environment, different investment, different ROIs, But I think this is a digital world, and I think we have to be very careful that how we invest and where we invest. And we need to reform this licensing, the custody of the crypto assets, particularly the subset of crypto assets that currently fall outside the financial services. Regulatory framework should establish a set of obligations and an operational standard for crypto asset service providers to ensure that they adequately safe asset for the consumer and the customers. I think this is the future. I think we all have to look into, and there will be a lot of new regulatory or protections for all the investors from both sides would be coming up in every part of the world.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? Wonderful.
Call me out earlier. Yeah, so I've worked in the UK for a number of years. I'm now in Dubai. I used to work for Zero. We saw the impact of open banking in the UK. I'm sure Dr. Kamran is very familiar with it. In terms of just democratizing access to accounting, well, banking details and transactions on a daily basis. It not only helps advisors and accountants be able to give advice to their clients rather than make it half a year over, it also means that banks can make more informed decisions about lending opportunities, right? What are the barriers do you think for the UAE adopting open banking frameworks like we've got in Europe, like PSD2, for example, and are there opportunities here significant enough for them to be interested in doing that? I don't know if anyone can answer that.
Let me reiterate that. So in the UK, we've got something called open banking, where the banks have collaborated. They've gone to a platform. That platform then provides the data to software providers like Xero, QuickBooks, and all sorts. So Eamon's work for Xero, and the beauty of that is the data that's provided through this platform goes straight into the software or is provided electronically, whereby the accountants, rather than doing it after the year end, could do real-time accounting, bookkeeping, reporting, and the banks can make value-added or proper decisions in terms of the account itself when they're monitoring on a regular basis. So Eamon's question is, if I've heard it right, is what is the UAE's roadmap to have an open banking platform?
Yeah, like is there a desire for something like that here? We've seen the benefits in other markets, but how desirable is it to bring something like that here?
Very good question. I think it's a good question for the bankers, though. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer. It makes a lot of sense, right? I'd be surprised if the UAE banks are not looking at that, because it does make a lot of sense. We have what's called the National Economic Register, where every single licensing authority, whether it's onshore, free zone, etc., has to provide all the information about every single company, including activity, UBOs, etc., on the National Economic Register. So that's one source, and that's open and it's accessible. So you know every company. But related to your question, I don't know whether that exists or it's, well, it doesn't exist, we know that, but is it coming down the road?
I think that's going to be great, because that's your financial statements. You know, all the transactions getting recorded automatically right from there. That's going to be great. All it needs is a chart of account. You tell them what expenses will be parked there, and that's it.
This is a full-blown accounting. I think it's a good one to take offline, Eamon. We'll have a conversation and we'll see what connections we've got within our global family, and we can just pick it up from there. A very good question.
Worldwide, and everybody's following, and many companies created in the side and doing the same business. But with your experience, do you think this crypto will be a better to stay as it is in dealing with this kind of the business, or to have a base as in US or in Singapore or anywhere, even in Dubai? But it will be difficult for us here in Dubai. But what would be the best?
Yeah, very good question. The argument for centralization, decentralization, and so on is a big one, and there are advantages and disadvantages, of course. I think, again, I've been here 37 years, and all I can say is we have been very smart in the UAE in choosing the right policies and regulations that attract business and that helps the economy to grow. So again, it'll be a fine balance between the two. There are some elements that would continue to be centralized, and there are some that would become more and more decentralized. And there will be advantages that come with that. In different sectors of the economy, I see some sectors benefiting more than others. On the financial side, in particular, on the banking side, we're going to have disruptors, as we like to call them in this space, and they will come. And if the banks ignore them, then the banks will ignore at their peril. I look at the decentralized space. Take healthcare as an example. You know, today it's still extremely centralized and in the hands of a few major players around the world. Decentralization when it comes to healthcare, meaning every experiment, every exercise that's done, all the information is accessible to everyone to use it for the better of humanity, not for the better of Glaxo, or I'm going to get sued now for using a name, right? Or any of those names, right? It is for the better of humanity. Are you telling me there's still no medicine for cancer? I personally don't believe it. But it suits the medical companies to say there isn't, because they can make so much money by what they do today. Again, that's my second lawsuit today. So I don't mind, it's okay, I'm retiring. So, you know, I think there are many applications that can be used via the decentralized model that will accelerate what we can give back to humanity and to democratize things in a way that hasn't happened before. And again, with that will be advantages and disadvantages, and some people will use it to their benefit and so on. But that's just human nature. Whatever we do, you're going to have good guys and bad guys. Our role as regulators is try and protect as much as possible from the bad guys. We just rolled out on Friday, Sheikh Saud, the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah, attended the conference. We had people from the ministry also attending the conference. We are all aware, especially the accounting profession, of limited liability companies. You know, we've had that but now for 200 years. That's the type of companies we're all used to. Has anyone in this room heard of decentralized autonomous organizations? DAOs? Wow, okay. This is great news, by the way. Because that's the future. Decentralized autonomous organizations. There's no board, there's no shareholders, there's no CEO. It's founding members and a governance model run by the community. And the community members have a token and they vote with that token. This is decentralized autonomous organizations. This has existed for maybe 10 years now. There are 50,000 DAOs around the world, but they don't really have a legal wrapper. So they create the DAO, they can't open a bank account, they can't own assets, but they use them mostly for governance. And there are DAOs that are charity DAOs, art DAOs, foundations, all sorts of things. We have created a legal wrapper in the UAE under RACDAO. I called it DAO from day one for that reason, because this is what I wanted to work on. So that these DAOs now have a legal wrapper. It is the easiest way to explain it to the lawyers in the room is like a company limited by guarantee. But then you have the founders, you have the council members, you have all of the members, and back to smart contracts. The DAO is run through the smart contracts. And if they need to vote on something, they vote with their tokens. And now with a legal wrapper, which they can apply, if something goes wrong, they can go to the ADGM courts or the DIFC courts. They don't have to end up in local courts, because you take a DAO and go to the Dubai courts, imagine what's going to happen. You know, and Sham's going to say, decentralized autonomous, what? So it's all happening, and the world is changing. And again, DAOs, I can give you a 1 hour on DAOs, but we've just rolled it out, and the interest has been phenomenal. We had people from the Ministry of Economy coming up to me and saying, we have been looking at this for 2 years now, and could not really get a legal wrapper in place. You've done it.
Thank you very much. Well, pertinent to this, a ton of questions come to mind. Countries issue their currencies, they would have their back end, you know. And who's issuing all these futuristic currencies, digital currencies, and then their acceptance, what happens to the inflation, etc., etc. Things like these pertinent to different countries, different economies. How would they absorb that? A ton of questions, but unfortunately, because of the time constraints, we have to wrap up our discussion. And we are extremely thankful to all the panelists for their valuable time that they have given us today. We have thoroughly enjoyed this session. and we would have an hour break for lunch and prayers, and we'll be back in an hour time. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you.